All right.
Welcome back to another episode.
Welcome back to another episode of the AR Curious podcast featuring me, Doug from Reptilia, and
Brent from SOFLETE.
long-term friends, frenemies.
Frenemies.
Yeah, it's funny how that all
Decade
works
of
out.
frenemyship.
I know lots has happened in the world recently, and even though we mostly want to talk about like ARs,
Well, firearms and freedom.
all
We
the
have
things.
current events in there as well, just because why not? you know?
So, in the last 48 hours, the greatest raid in history was executed.
Would you say the greatest raid? I mean, I guess a raid is subjective. It's
look,
definitely the greatest
before we-
rendition in history.
Before we did this podcast, you asked if we were going to spend an hour and a half sucking the unit guys' dicks.
Well, whoever did it.
Yeah. Like the
Whoever did
unit
it.
who did it.
Yeah.
Yes, we are in fact going to do that.
Yeah, it's impressive. I
Yeah.
don't think anybody can argue that it's not impressive at a tactical level.
So
At
if-
a
and-
strategic level, people are arguing about how impressive it is.
What
or is
happened? Well, we don't know, but we are here to pontificate
not. Well, we know what happened. We don't know why it happened necessarily.
or what's going to happen next.
And saying we don't know, I think, is a bit of an oversimplification.
Does it?
President Trump has directly said we're getting our oil back, right? So he's
Was
made
it
no,
ever our will to begin with?
yeah, like he's made no bones about the idea that this is about resources.
Yep.
It's also about potentially stopping, drug trafficking is the official.
Boy, there's so many potential red herrings here. First of all, an unknown group of individuals affiliated with the United States government infiltrated on helicopters
Yes.
into Venezuela and renditioned the president, the illegal, the non-elected leader of Venezuela was taken from his home with his wife and brought back to New York City's Southern District to be prosecuted for crimes that he was indicted for how many years ago?
I don't know.
2020?
Well, so let's back it up.
Yep.
His personal security detachment.
Seemingly all Cuban.
Well, are the
And
Wagner guys Cuban?
I mean, I'm not sure. So I haven't seen any news stating that there were actual Wagner guys there, but I have heard that there were some Wagner guys there. Wagner,
so-
for those of us who speak English, not German.
Yeah, I want to dive right into the conspiracies because that's where it's fun. And so you had a great rabbit hole that you went down that you thought Maduro was a puppet president
Being held captive
being held captive in his own
by
country.
Cubans, but under Russian interest.
Let's hear some more of that. Why would Russia have an interest or China have an interest in keeping Maduro in power?
Well, first of all, before we even get into the why, I just want to ask how many other heads of state in the world do we know of whose security detail is entirely made up of foreign soldiers?
None.
That doesn't seem
I mean,
like
it's probably not none,
doesn't
but
not
it's
none, but
very
doesn't
few.
seem like a thing, right? It seems like you would want to hire your trusted country members to be your security detail, right? And then so that's a weird.
Actually, I think it's probably a relatively high, not a high number, but it's probably more than you would expect.
Well, I think that places in what are they, banana republics or whatever.
I was going to say anywhere that the leader is less than popular.
Yeah, like an authoritarian despot is going to have hired security.
Yes.
Certainly they're going to have foreign consultants.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that the entirety of their bodyguard crew is going to be made up of foreign nationals.
No,
Doesn't seem like a thing.
it's a weird one.
So there's a question mark. And then when you add that, you talk about the fact that there was a Chinese delegation there to speak with them hours before.
Which I think was very intentional.
Yeah, well, it
That's like a giant fuck you. It
seems
hey,
like there's
while
a-
you're in town.
seems like there's a ton of really intentional things that went on. I mean, on the way out, we're just going to drop a bomb on Hugo Chavez's mausoleum too.
Yeah. Well, so let's
More
go-
middle fingers.
Yeah. Back to the question of why is Venezuela significant?
So
to
it seems
Russia and
that-
China.
that by general admission, 5% of the heavy crude that's bought and used by the Chinese government comes from Venezuela.
Yep.
It would look like that number could be significantly higher based on rebranding due to embargoes and cutouts in Malaysia. So just say, 5 to 10%.
Even if it's only 5%
Yeah,
or
still-
4% was the number that
Yeah.
I saw, it's still significant.
It's still a significant portion of their oil usage. It's also worth noting that Venezuela has 17% of the proven undeveloped oil in the world.
And I think more importantly is it's the largest undeveloped.
Yeah, well, it's certainly larger than Saudi Arabia, right? Yeah, like it's also weird to see that Venezuela's oil production, due to what would seem to be a failed state of leadership underneath Chavez, has gone from like 3.3 million barrels a day to like 900,000. A dramatic decrease in output.
It's like ballpark 70% decrease from, what was the numbers we looked at, like 2004 to today, basically.
And who would have
20 years.
guessed that underneath socialism, systems don't run efficiently, specifically when the country's going through like an absolute famine. They went from like one of the wealthiest countries in the world to currently average Venezuelans are living on like $1.50 a week or something.
Yeah, super poor, and
They literally had a famine in
yeah
in this era.
Right, but they've taken all of the oil and they've made it all state run, right? It's not privately run anymore.
Well,
which literally is the argument for communism.
Yeah, and
I can't wait to hear people say they just didn't give communism the correct shot this time.
I don't understand. There's so many people that are mad about so many things here. I don't even really want to get into that, and I want to talk about the fact that like we understand why foreign nations have an interest in Venezuela, and it's oil, right? Like cool, and everybody's sitting there.
It has other resources too, right? And so I think the fact that when you're the number one player on the world stage, like the U.S. is, when somebody's the largest player in any resource, you're going to look over there and go, all right, well, how do we make that, a good thing for the U.S.?
And anti-colonial voices will say, oh, well, we can't keep exploiting these people for their natural resources. And I say that the mismanagement of those resources opens the door to more exploitation for the local population than it does actually managing the resources and offering like economic opportunity and reinvestment in the civilization. People are like, Venezuelan oil money should go to Venezuelans. Well, okay, awesome, but it's not currently. Certainly not under the administration, unless you think it's like 10 Venezuelans who are in charge of the socialist system.
I was going to say, it is at face value when you're like, Venezuelan resources should help Venezuelans. Sure, but part of it is that they weren't doing well on their own. So now they're looking to external countries that are larger players, and we were effectively not an option to them.
Well, China Silk Roaded them.
Yes.
Too. China extended them a huge.
So now their resources are helping another country, is what I'm getting at.
And for no return to them.
Like China and Russia weren't there just out of the kindness of China and Russia's hearts.
No. And, so we've seen the Monroe Doctrine invoked several times in the last few days too, which everyone's like, this isn't the Monroe Doctrine, blah, blah, blah. You're like, okay, well, but honestly, it kind of is the entire reason that we invoked the Monroe Doctrine, is that we wanted to keep European powers from colonizing the Americas, and that the Americas were meant to develop on their own. And now we're seeing other powers essentially colonizing the Americas and taking all the resources out of the country and moving into other places. I understand that we could have like a super heated argument about that with someone who disagreed with us, but we kind of agree. So it's easy.
Sometimes in the nuance, you and I are also very big proponents of saying like, I don't know if that's the right answer or not. But what is taking place is, I think, I don't know if anybody buys this as like about fentanyl fully. I don't know if that's getting bought by anybody. But resources, I think everybody's like, yeah, this is about resources. We have overtly said, we being the U.S. government, have overtly said this is about resources.
Yep.
There's also been other things illuminated and highlighted, which to me are kind of like, why are we even illuminating something if it's really just about resources?
Well, and it's funny, like, sure, everything's about resources. Everything's about a monopoly and violence, et cetera.
Yeah.
But it's worth noting that the situation in Venezuela, where everybody's like undeniably, this was an amazing raid, like 0 civilian casualties, hyper targeting of air defense assets.
0 U.S. casualties.
So is that true?
That's what
Oh,
I've heard touted.
nobody's dead.
Yeah, nobody's
Yeah,
dead.
I feel like that there was. I heard a rumor that there was like a C-17 flight straight to San Antonio with some casual, like some wounded and stuff. But
I'm gonna have to research.
I
That
don't know.
may have been recently. I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. It happened within like an hour. It was like fast, but I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I would love to believe that that was a totally
No dead Americans.
yeah, no dead Americans,
Yeah.
no dead Venezuelan civilians. We targeted. I mean, one of the most interesting things to me is I've long shat upon the near peer
I've been saying
protestations.
nearest peer.
Yeah,
is what
nearest
I've been
peer is a good thing, but like the thing that's justified our exponential defense budget for forever was the idea that Russia was an imminent technological competitor with the United States,
Yeah.
and that we had to have next generation weapons to compete against whatever Russia was doing to maintain a status quo and balance of power. But it would look like all of the people in the U.S. who've been long time saying like the S-300s were a real threat may not have actually known what they were talking about.
Yeah, so for those listening or watching, anti-air defense systems like effectively didn't work or were taken out insanely fast, however you want to look at that, but they were a non-factor.
They didn't work. They didn't work so
as
well.
advertised.
Well, I mean, I think that they're one thing they were saying.
So
they
here's
could
the question.
hit cruise missiles, and cruise missiles were definitely what was doing a lot of the damage to like key strategic
Did
locations.
they not work, or was this a prepackaged deal, which was also one of your
So in
theories?
2025,
Yep.
when Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the confirmed president of Venezuela in the wake of Maduro, had a there was a negotiation between the Trump administration and Delcy Rodriguez that was supposedly administered by the Emiratis. Not administered, but like
Hosted.
hosted, kind of mediated. That's the thing. And we don't know what happened there, but it seems odd that the U.S. was able to directly hit Chavez's house, take out all of his bodyguards, and take Chavez out of the country.
You keep saying Chavez.
Not Chavez, sorry, Maduro. They're one and the same to me. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I meant Maduro. And take him out of the country with his wife. And then almost immediately, Delcy Rodriguez sweeps into power.
Yeah.
Makes a bold statement about how the U.S. is, she tries to slap him on the hand, probably more aggressively than she should, for a variety of reasons.
And then immediately
And then
follows
immediately
up
after apologizes essentially and says that she's working with the U.S. government. Seems weird to me. Also seems like Maduro's happy in all of the videos you see of him. Like he's doing
he's no
thumbs
longer
up.
a hostage in his own
I
apartment.
mean, he's in cuffs, but he's definitely he's a
also,
different.
this dude's had a lot of wardrobe changes, which I think is pretty cool.
Dude, think about go buy yourself an Origin sweatsuit.
Yeah. I'm wearing Origin pants right now.
Are you
actually,
really, dude? Origin, sponsor us.
Yeah. So do you think that it was a prepackaged?
Well, first of all, I have no idea. But it would seem to me that there was some negotiations that went into whatever happened here.
Yeah.
And that those negotiations were in some way to allow Chavistas to stay in power and allow Maduro some sort of exit ramp from whatever was going on. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be crazy to think that he was basically held hostage by Cuban, Russian, Chinese interests based on how much money he owed the Chinese, based on his obligations to Russian advisors. And I guess like Venezuela is the last country in the world that's engaging in economic trade with Cuba. So they're buying almost all of their sugarcane production.
Interesting.
And I don't know what that political relationship is. I'm in no way a Latin American expert beyond, what I've read. But if the Trump administration was looking to effect some sort of regime change in Venezuela, and they didn't want a recreation of what happened in Iraq when we invaded and then we de-Baathified the entire country and nobody knew how to run the country.
Yeah.
It's not to say that the Chavistas know how to run the country, but with the appropriate scolding and
The
redirection,
appropriate guardrails.
yeah, are they more capable of administering the changes that need to happen in Venezuela for it to be a successful society than a bunch of brand new, untested people? Maybe.
Well, so like at a base level, right? We did see some shooting in the streets yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, and I don't know what that was about because it looked like a full-scale coup. You saw people running up and down the streets around the palace, and then the government said that they were just shooting at a drone that was flying near the palace.
Yeah, their own drone is what I read.
Yeah,
maybe they were flying like their own surveillance drone, and then people were shooting at that.
I could see why everyone might be on edge.
Everybody being on edge. But I think what's important is when you have a operating successful country, you have two things: either an agreement of nonviolence or a monopoly of violence. When there's strongly opposed beliefs, it's a monopoly of violence.
A rule of law that doesn't fully exist either. Like, the rule of law is being held together by essentially a junta, a military force that's preventing people from...
That's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like the military or police are keeping people from being like, I have a quarrel with this person, I'm just going to blast them.
Well, and that's the rule of law. When the rule of law starts to go away...
Yeah, exactly.
That...
Full laws of the jungle, right?
Yeah.
So what's great about this that's very different from Iraq is we did not remove an entire system of government.
Who knows
right? We didn't go to take over
we're not occupying...
At least thus far.
Yeah, within 24 hours, all of the people that were naysayers were like, then we're getting into another 20-year war. And I'm like, and that, I believe, is the tightrope we're walking right now. I firmly believe that the protests that we're seeing all over the country that are advocating for the release of Maduro and talking about an illegal operation, I think there are some foolish, well-intentioned people, as always, that are like, I feel this way about the thing, and this is an illegal operation. But overall, I think that most of the protests we're seeing are being funded by outside accelerationists, like outside interests, Chinese, Russian, et cetera, through a variety of cutouts or whatever. They're certainly leveraging people.
Or just people that are like, any intervention externally is bad.
Yep.
Which I understand the principle of that.
But the
I don't
funding
think it's
itself is an intervention into our politics.
For sure.
And so, like, we're seeing this groundswell of feeling one way or another.
I don't think you're seeing a groundswell. I think you're seeing like a ripple.
Yeah, well, and a purposefully placed one that will be on the media to elicit the feeling that maybe this is this bad thing with people who are on the fence.
I just don't see it. Like, I watched a protest at the White House yesterday, and it was like 6 people. I'm not exaggerating, 2 of which were in wheelchairs.
Oh, God.
So it was like, did they wheelchair in these extras? Like, who are these people? Well, it was small. Whereas when you see a groundswell, that's like encompassing a street, right? It's a large body of people. This was like it was a Timu protest.
So if the U.S. is destabilizing China's Silk Road initiative by doing this, by doing a regime change, and by saying we're going to control the resources now, which as an America First dude, I'm all about this. I think it's great. I know other people may not feel the same way, but I also think that something that I've seen that people are saying that I think is like, okay, so this is the greatest raid. If we can do this in Venezuela,
do it globally.
Why don't we do it in Russia too? Why don't we get rid of Putin if he's such a bad guy? And I'm laughing because it's like, you see, it's like the meme, like, do Russia next.
Yeah.
And you're like, but what if this is the first domino in a series of things that allows Russia to do itself?
Well, and the argument, exactly that. The argument is that if you do this, you now don't need to do this in the other places.
Like, a small amount of intervention now is worth a large amount of intervention later. Yes. If, for instance, we are upping oil production in Venezuela and we, God forbid, bottom out the price of oil for an extended period of time, Russia, that's almost wholly propped up on oil revenue.
A lot of natural gas too, right?
Yeah, but I mean, their oil and gas are both affected dramatically. Yes. Like they're what's bolstering the economy now in a very hard time where they're pouring a ton of money and human resources into Ukraine.
Yeah. Money dries up.
It's kind of like, well, that's kind of the last support for a Putin administration. And I've seen some interesting conversation on like 4chan type channels and like WhatsApp groups that are heavily Russian where people are like freaking out about this.
Yeah, terrified that they're just going to start dumping oil into the market.
Yep.
So back to a fundamental question where people are like, we shouldn't be involved in Venezuela. Venezuela has trade partners, right? It's trade partners that are
sort of
not pro-U.S.
Yep.
Yeah, they're selling China.
They're part of BRICS,
China's,
I guess. So there's that,
BRICS, right? So if they have external trade partners, which everybody needs, why would we not want that to be the U.S.? Like, I don't understand that argument where it's like, we shouldn't, be doing this. Well, we just...
What I don't understand is that leave Trump out of the equation. Just don't even think about that this was like what U.S. administration did this. Don't think about how it was done. Don't think about what was said. Every previous administration has since, like, I mean, I guess really since Obama, has been anti what is happening in Venezuela.
Yeah.
He was indicted in 2020 for crimes. He universally is accepted as not being the winner of the election in 2024.
Yep.
And so, like, what are we doing?
I think Cuba was the only country that officially recognized him as the leader.
As a leader.
Is that correct?
I don't know that to be true, but that's...
We're going to have to Google it.
Yeah, it seems like it could be right.
A very Googleable thing.
Like, this is a dude that the world has absolutely seen as a bad actor for an extended period of time. And when Donald Trump was running for president against Joe Biden, until he ran against Harris, Biden was posting about how Donald Trump was a fan of the strong man and was pro-Maduro, and that he would never be tough with Venezuela like Joe Biden would be. And I'm like, well, we've seen a lot of people say that they're going to play tough with Venezuela, but not enforce an embargo, certainly not put in a shipping blockade, certainly not seize their oil ships.
Or their president.
Yeah, or their president.
We just snatched them. Okay, so now let's back this up back to the individual level. The idea that we've plucked out a president,
but haven't changed the government.
Haven't changed the government. I think it's an important one because everybody's talking about a power vacuum.
Yep.
And we didn't leave a power vacuum.
Not really. So there were 4 pillars of power in Venezuela, and I'm going to screw this up because I don't know everybody. I know Delcy Rodriguez and her brother. He's the head of parliament, and she's now the president. Then you had a Padrino dude who was, I guess, into banking or something. I'm going to speak on that. And then there was a pair of other brothers that were also a pillar, and then Maduro.
Yep.
And so we kicked one pillar out, and somewhere along the way we picked a horse to run with, and it appears to be Delcy Rodriguez.
Or we're letting a horse run or whatever, but almost more importantly, like the local police force did not get taken out in a ground war.
Nope.
The military not taken out in a ground war. Infrastructure largely not destroyed in a ground war. So all of these things that, like, talking with Nolan on the way here, he was like, dude, people don't realize we're like 5 days away from total anarchy in the U.S., right? If you lost power for 5 days in the U.S. entirely.
Our grocery store system is like, what, a 48-hour
I've already
cycle?
picked which neighbor I'm going to eat. So, but that's the reality, right? You're 5 days away from like whatever food you can live on in your house. When we don't have power for 5 days.
We see it when we've had some of the hurricanes and people start to get dicey, and it's always like, what's happening next?
Well, people come in the U.S. when we have these natural disasters, like you and I went and did the
Helene relief,
in Helena. None of that took place, and so you're not getting the Iraq 2.0 argument in.
We should also bear in mind that like
3 days past this thing.
When we went in, and when we went into Iraq, Americans love to view world events through American eyes. And so when we say we're 5 days away from total catastrophe here in the United States, it's because people aren't used to privation.
Right.
But like if you look at Venezuela, like what, they have power 3 days a week.
They're already subsistence
They're getting
living.
water for an hour a day in major neighborhoods, and they have to collect all the water they need for washing, drinking, et cetera. And they've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
They went through a famine. The average Venezuelan lost 20 pounds in like 2021 or 22 when they had a famine.
Nuts. So I've seen, and you always see this on both sides, right? You see, the toppling of statues, blah, 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 blah. Oh,
that's a good part.
Great, this guy's out. And then you're like, okay, what's next, right? We'll see.
And a lot of people are asking what's next. And like, I think it's funny because we don't have a clue.
Well, but we're also, again, we didn't remove the entirety of a system. We removed one piece of the system. And we basically told the rest of the players, like, hey, remember how we plucked that guy out, at 2 a.m., 1 a.m.? Yep. We could do that again. So
Petra's on notice, Scheinbaum's on notice. All the people that are like sticklers, like people that are burrs under the saddle in Latin America are like, ooh, that could be me next.
Yep.
Now, I mean, first of all, I love the fact that up until now, we haven't really talked about how the sausage was made. Like, not us.
Yeah.
We're just, guessing in general.
Yeah,
but like, there hasn't been a huge release on most of the major details of the raid. which was fucking awesome.
It was flawless.
Dude, it was absolutely
flawless.
incredible. Like, it was amazing. And to see...
What do you think their after action looked like?
Bro.
I didn't like how Bob tied his boots that night. Like, well, all right, after action complete.
I think that the general consensus is this is what happens when you take the pit bull off the leash. Like, the collar's off. We've been operating under such constrained ROE for so long. Like, setting the conditions and letting the dudes eat it's proof that, like, you can get the tactical mission done no matter what. All of our pieces work together very well. We understand how to row that boat in the same direction. How that tactical piece inserts into the greater strategic piece, or the operational.
Well,
even,
I think
we even have operational stuff covered really well. Like, operationally, this was a great exercise. Like, an operation. And then, but at a strategic level, how does that plug in? How are we handling this? I think that
What's the strategic downside to it?
I don't see one.
That could be foreseen.
Well, it's a constitutional crisis to a bunch of people who clearly don't understand, like, history.
Yeah.
Like, this is an ongoing thing that's been developing. We were saying that this was going to be a problem when, the War Powers Act got changed up significantly. We were saying this when the Patriot Act was passed. Like,
Still
it's like,
a problem.
these are all things that are going to increase in problem, in their degree of problemicity, whatever. The problem gets bigger and bigger, and people take more. They take more. They take more liberties with previous precedent. So, like, the next leader will be like, well, this is for a greater good, and I'm going to take just one step further down the path to do a thing. But to say that this is like some super outlier that's never happened is wild. Like, we've been doing things like this.
We've been doing this a long time in this way. I think what's different about this is it's more brazen.
High profile.
It's more brazen than anything that I can think of that's taken place, right? We literally just plucked out, like, hey, you're bad actor. We're going to pluck you out of your little...
Like, he didn't see it coming.
No, and your argument is, like, he sat at the table in this deal of, like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm either going to get killed by my people, killed by the, Chinese,
the Russians,
or
the Chinese, the Cubans,
or killed in an invasion, or there's an invasion and my people are mad, and now, I get Gaddafi'd in the street, which is the worst way to go.
And that's the tightrope that I was trying to reference earlier, too, is, like, we're focusing a lot on what the consequences in Venezuela are, but U.S. intervention in this problem is fraught with peril because,
When you say that, you mean like a ground invasion.
A ground invasion of Venezuela can't... there's no way this is...
I think this is our best shot at a good relationship with Venezuela and a change in direction for Venezuela. I think it's the best shot for everybody.
I agree wholeheartedly.
One dude got plucked out in the middle of the night. His PSD got smoked. Who else? We don't know, but civilians didn't get killed, which I think probably lends to the not rioting in the streets the day after.
Well, I mean, I think it probably helps that everybody was really excited. Like, Venezuelans as a whole are...
But were they?
Everybody is not the right term. Oh, my God. Did you see the videos of them celebrating?
I know there were some, but
like, waving U.S.
you saw those videos, like, every time there's toppling about
yes, but when you do that when the troops on the ground are U.S. troops, like, the liberating forces
I'm thinking of,
there,
like, Gaddafi. Everybody was so stoked.
And, I mean, I think that they were probably happy that Gaddafi was killed, too. They just didn't see what the consequences were going to be.
So there are quite a few Libyans who are like, yeah, you know what? The dictator wasn't so bad. Like, shit was held together.
But they can say that in hindsight. The
say
same
it
way
in
the
hindsight,
Iraqis.
yeah.
The Iraqis said the same thing about Saddam. Saddam was a strong leader, he was a good leader. We wish he hadn't left because what happened afterwards was worse.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the funny part there, well, maybe not funny, but I guess the odd part there is, like, we both fought in wars that we technically lost.
Sure.
I know people say this all the time. I take a more nuanced view, and not because I have ego wrapped up in whether we won or not, but I view Iraq as a total success because they went through multiple growth phases. They dealt with an external threat to their existence, and they unified and fought against the external threat when ISIS invaded. They lost significant men and material in that fight, and they maintained a democratically led parliament that has valid elections, and the people that they elected don't like the U.S. Like, we're still helping them, and we've allowed them to elect people that are advocating for us to leave. And I think that's great. I have no problem with that. That's what we went there to fight for.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were at the, like, we fucked around now, and now we have to find out, like, is this going to be...
Well, and the Iraqis got to find out.
Yeah,
and it was totally costly. And I'm not saying that, like, I wish that on anybody.
Well, we left a power vacuum, right? And so the conditions set for the power vacuum in Iraq are not the same conditions in Venezuela.
Yeah, and we didn't fill the vacuum. Like, I know that everybody's like, oh, we should have, like, done more with reconstruction or whatever. Like, we just were not.
We were like kids with an ant farm to me, with Iraq and Afghanistan.
So Iraq specifically, but it applies to Afghanistan as well. We were on a cyclic, like, we were on an operational schedule that involved combat deployments. So within the SOF community, it was every 6 to 8 months. And within the regular community, it was like every year.
Yep.
There was a rotation of command with people with new priorities. There was no clearly stated end state. And because no one wanted to do anything that would indicate the U.S. was going to be there forever, they didn't build any permanent infrastructure. All of the money went to semi-permanent infrastructure that we could remove, and take the stain of American involvement off of their landscape. And I'm sitting here going, well, we're anti-colonial, or say we are.
We're not.
Yeah,
Like, we're not.
But colonial powers at least built enduring infrastructure. In most colonial countries, the only infrastructure that remains is the colonial infrastructure that was built. They've done a very poor job of developing modern infrastructure. The Chinese have offered them opportunities to build modern infrastructure at usurious debt. Like, the interest rates are terrible, and
they fight an economic war, right? Yeah. Their war looks very different than ours.
And that's how they get control.
We pluck dictators out, and they leverage them out.
Well, and I think that what we did in Iraq, everybody's like, we went to Iraq for oil, and it's like, but who really got the oil money? We made money off of war services. Like, the industrial complex made money in Iraq and Afghanistan off of war services, not off of natural resource exploitation. While we were in Afghanistan, the Chinese were actively exploiting things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
what's interesting to me is if you take the why away or even leave it in, and you say, hey, this is for resources or is not for resources.
I love that they're saying it.
I love that they're saying it. And they're like, hey, we're back for oil.
Yep.
Let's call a spade a spade. We're plucking out the person who wasn't doing the thing that we wanted them to do for our country's greater good.
That the world needed them to do.
And now we're giving some guardrails of like, hey, now you guys can operate in this manner, or you see what we just did, we'll do it again.
Conveniently, it allows us to influence the markets of people that are trying to directly compete with our interests around the globe as well.
So you're lumping this into a counter BRICS play more so than like a directly counter China or directly counter Russia. You think it's the entirety of BRICS?
I think that the U.S. will slouch into irrelevance if left on a current trajectory without actually influencing the development and use of resources worldwide.
Yeah, I don't think isolationism really works.
No, certainly not when the people that are our competitors are not interested in isolationism at all.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, should this have been, if you were going to not second guess the raid at a tactical level, but at a strategic level, it's weird to me that people don't agree that we needed a strategic change in what was happening. Meaning, we needed Venezuela to be selling us oil and not BRICS oil.
So that's one aspect of it. Their mismanagement of their oil production is another aspect of it. I also think
their oil's different. It's
heavy crude.
It's heavy. Yeah.
But the irony here is like the talking point for this for years, especially in East Texas, something I actually do know something about, is that high gravity oil, heavy crude, whatever it is, it's more expensive to produce. It's harder to refine.
Still worth it, though.
Nobody wants it, is what they say. But like the largest heavy crude refining facilities in the world are along the Gulf Coast. Right. We have the ability to process it. We have the facilities to do so. So
and we built those facilities in Venezuela, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, the change in government changed a lot of things there.
But that's correct. Yep. We built those facilities, and they're able to refine it, et cetera. And they're not able to service the refineries.
Yeah, they've been running them into the ground for an extended period of time, which honestly has benefited other heavy crude producers like Russia.
Oh, interesting.
When the market goes up and oil costs more, then Russia's oil production is worth more. Their proven undeveloped reserves are worth dramatically more. They can leverage those for loans in other markets, et cetera. I mean, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't buy more heavy crude from Venezuela and then sell it refined to the Chinese.
Would we be refined? So I'm really curious on the the security around the refineries and the security state in Venezuela, because they have a huge gang problem. They do have narco-terrorism, et cetera, et cetera. Are we going to be watching the oil companies import the security, or do you think that's going to be a localized deal? Because that's one of the big issues with Libya is securing
things that I don't really know about well, but I've seen little hints of. Part of Maduro's indictment was that he had nationalized the drug gang, and was that the drug gangs themselves were actually another branch of his kind of military control. So I would be curious to see what the security looks like if narcotics, like drug gangs, whatever it is, are still in fact a major implement of social control.
Well, and are they going to go from being drug gangs to oil gangs? And are they going to wear a uniform that says,
Is there a hope for Venezuela if that continues? So, like, if you look at Bukele and Milei or whatever, like a lot of the shift to the right in Latin America has been about an authoritarian crackdown on crime.
Yeah.
And like everyone in the U.S. is like wringing their hands about due process and how they're abusing the people, but like all it takes is a couple photos to be like, pretty sure those people belong in prison.
Yeah.
Or you should start a large-scale war and put them all at the front. Like,
well, so that's I'm thinking in Rwanda, when you go do a guerrilla trek in the mountains, there's porters, guys to carry your shit. And me being, a former soft guy, when I went on that, I'm like, I'm not fucking paying somebody to carry my backpack. And they're like, hey, dude, these guys used to be poachers.
yeah.
Or now they're pretty far removed. They will be poachers if you're not paying them to be porters. So the thought process was, it's like in Libya, you're paying militias. The militias all think that they're the like local cops.
It's the same way in the Philippines.
Right. It's the same way.
Economic hardship drives people to crime. I get that.
So now if we have these gangs, that we'll call them, can they take down the gang flag and put up the Chevron flag? And now they're mobilized as a security staff, right?
After however many years of extorting the local population for everything that they have, are they capable of actually focusing and not doing crime if they're paid well enough?
That's a good question.
There's a lot of ifs, you know what I mean? If my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle. That's like my favorite phrase ever. But like, I mean, there's no doubt that there's a ton of uncertainty in Venezuela at this moment.
I was kind of curious if you knew of a plan that's put out as far as like we're going to import security with like a la Blackwater, or if
seems like there's no plan, which is bothering people, but it doesn't feel like there's no plan.
I would guess that the oil companies have a plan.
So I think that one of the things people have been complaining about the most is that the Gang of Eight did not get notified about this raid, but the oil companies did.
Yeah, totally.
So I mean,
that's why I'm guessing that
I think somebody's thinking about it, and I think that honestly, I feel like the best case scenario here would be influence exerted through economic means, through a return to prosperity in Venezuela.
Yep.
The question is can a totalitarian government that's been used to co-opting every dollar that comes in and spending it on luxury items, living in mansions, and denying the people food and resources, break away from that?
But do they have to?
I mean, certainly in some capacity. Like, it doesn't matter how much wealth they create if they keep it all. Then
if they keep all of it, for sure. But let's say they have, the mansions, the cars,
and they write checks to
yachts,
everybody,
and they're like, "Hey, we've got money now."
It becomes a Saudi Arabian petrol state, or like Gabon, where they write a minimum universal basic income.
Or Alaska,
yeah, where they just pay people to exist based on the profits. Yeah. Maybe. I mean,
or they reinvest it in a more capitalist manner, like whatever it is.
I just refuse to think that there was no plan. If they negotiated this transfer,
there is definitely a plan. If the oil companies know, like, you're not an oil company executive because you go, "Oh, cool, let us know, what do you want us to do?" Like, those dudes are sitting in a boardroom right now with fucking whiteboards covered in Sharpies.
The question is, can Delcy Rodriguez survive? Will there be a external attempt to put someone else in power? Like, What did the
Oh,
Russians...
you think that hasn't played out fully to the point
I don't think so.
before we're even going to talk about the security state of oil
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
what if you were Russia or China and you were hypothetically having negotiations about placing advanced weapon systems in Venezuela to exert more bargaining power in terms of dealing with concessions from the United States that you view to be a diminishing power, and the U.S. did this thing,
The U.S. just plucked your boss out.
took your dude away,
Yeah.
and created uncertainty in the region, and publicly said, we're going to control these resources now, which I know bugs everybody, but that's not a message to the American people or the people of Venezuela.
No.
That's a message to Russia and China.
Yes, to our nearest peers.
Yeah, to be like, hey, you guys were playing around in the space, and now
Yeah, this is our sandbox.
we are telling you to go home. I think it's worth noting that, like, when the Venezuelan economy was dictated by U.S. corporation involvement, Venezuela was a beautiful, wealthy,
Well, they have
amazing
resources.
country.
They've got some great beachfront, right? That your people tried to
Seventh
assault.
group dudes know all about the wonders of Venezuela.
Yep.
But I guess pre-Chavez, Venezuela was more desirable than Colombia as a JSAT location.
Interesting.
That's what I said.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I think we all know they've got the resources to be successful. They now have the economic, because they were not successful with the economic partners they had.
I don't know what the economic partnerships look like. None of us do, really. Like,
Well, if it's the U.S., broadly speaking, that's probably going to be a better
but
partnership.
how do
than
they,
China
like,
or
how
Russia.
is this executed is all very, like, you know, the wise man said, we'll see.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's something going on here. What I can say, what I think is awesome, we can't spend an hour and a half saying it, but, like, I've never in my life, like, I have always known that our special mission units, one in particular, was very well equipped to do this kind of mission.
Yeah.
But we've never been in a place, as long as we've been alive, honestly. Like, I mean, we grew up on watching Black Hawk Down, and like half the reason that Black Hawk Down was a problem was because President denied AC-130 air coverage for a very small group of dudes on the ground.
Yeah.
So you watched a bunch of dudes display just extraordinary bravery to protect each other,
Yeah,
to like
to make it
extricate
happen.
themselves out of a situation they should never have been in
Yeah.
because the leash was too tight, because there weren't resources allocated as they should have been. And we just watched what appears to be a total gloves off allocation of U.S. war power
Resources,
and
yeah.
resources. And what did that result in? Looks like a clean sweep, you know?
Well, so then an argument could be made that these half measures and half steps lead to more casualties on both sides.
Which we've been
right?
saying for years.
We've always said that.
Yep.
Like we basically rolled in and we're like, hey, this monopoly of violence that everybody who's in charge has, it's the Venezuelan government right now. At 1 a.m. tonight, it's the U.S. because we've got shit you can't imagine overhead.
It's a transitional
And
government.
guys on the ground.
And it's 36 months in length. At the end of 36 months, we will hold open elections, and we will allow you to vote on whether you want, and there will
Well,
be...
we haven't said that.
No, I'm just saying that
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we still haven't stated an end state. And the thing that bothers me
No.
the most about our intervention overseas is that we, in an effort to still be liked by other people, we make half measures. We
That's
smoke
the issue.
screen
Is
our
like
stuff.
we did this smoke screen, and we went with half measures. Let's say in Somalia, we denied AC-130 gunships. We didn't go all the way. Blah 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 blah. It empowered the people on the ground to be like, I've got a fighting chance.
Yep.
To defend my homeland, however you want to look at
All
that.
they have to do is see one American die, and then we're no
For
longer
sure.
bulletproof.
Yeah.
And then they decide that they can push it every time.
And you've seen that with partner forces too, right? Where you're like in training, you're like, these dudes are shit hot. First truck hits an IED and they all melt down to children. You're like, oh, okay, got it. I think the overwhelming show of force with like there's one thing between like, oh yeah, we flew a fast mover jet by. Okay, cool. Like, you know that you're not dropping the bomb, right? When you've got all of the air assets and you're watching helicopters, kill shit. You're seeing dudes off of helos kill shit. Dudes land, they're killing shit on their way. Like, that's such an overwhelming show of force and monopoly of violence. I think it doesn't leave room for the casual
I think it's
soldier, cop, et cetera, to be like, yeah, I want to intervene in that.
I think it's worth noting that like we did that in Iraq, that show of force.
Which one?
The overwhelming full Monty when we invaded in Iraq.
Initially, yeah.
And that definitely, and they had a plan for it. I mean,
Yeah.
the Fedayeen knew they couldn't fight. They were ready to like change clothes, shoot from behind.
Yep.
What I think is interesting about this action in Venezuela is that it was surgical.
That's what makes it so beautiful, is that it was surgical.
It opens up people's mind of like, if they can do this, what else can they do?
Well, and that's the other thing is like the Chinese delegation was
Just there watching the whole thing.
they're hanging out, right? And so it's like, hey, wherever you go in the world, we can pluck you out if we want. And we, like, do you think it was they walked past like room 101 to 102, and that's where they?
And I'm sure that the excuse that will be made in all this about like next gen weapon systems that were bought by the Venezuelans in order to prevent this kind of thing from happening is going to be that, oh well, we export less capable versions.
No, I fully think that our nearest peers are paper tigers compared to us, and just by the sheer numbers of like U.S. aircraft carriers, et cetera, et cetera.
Just the dollars invested alone, regardless of like talent pools and national interest investment in the thing, just simply dollars spent.
Yes.
We dwarf everyone.
And so people forget when historians talk about World War II, I like to think of it, and I'm not a historian, but when historians talk about it, they talk about the American industrial complex is what came to the war.
Exist before the war.
Well, it didn't in defense.
Not in defense.
But it did economically.
When we realized we needed to go to war, we tooled it up. What I think is interesting in the United States today is that we don't really make anything but defense tech. And we're starting to come back to doing more manufacturing in the U.S. What's one of the things that I actually really love about working here at Reptilia is that like we're sourcing as much manufacturing as we possibly can here in the U.S. to limit supply chains, to like get rid of uncertainties, and also so that our IP doesn't just disappear.
Well,
into
so
China.
you've got the industrial complex, not industrial military complex, just industry in America that comes into the fray that nobody wants to fuck with. And that's why we have all the airplanes. That's why we have all the aircraft carriers, et cetera. The other piece to the equation is like the American fighting man. And I firmly believe that's because we have a gun culture in the U.S. And it's stronger. There's other countries with gun cultures, like Czech Republic's got a good gun culture.
And the Poles.
The Poles, the Philippines, which some people are going to laugh at that. Costa Rica, oddly.
Really? Yeah, they have a shooting.
They host an IPSC in Costa Rica.
But they're also pacifists.
Yeah, when I
They're
looked
the only
into
country without an army.
Are they really?
In Latin America, yeah.
That's super interesting.
Yep.
I looked at buying real estate there in 2009, and
You and every other white yoga chick on the planet.
Yeah, it probably would have been the best investment I'd ever made. But you could own a pistol there if you owned a business. Was like one of the things that I looked into at the time, or at least that's how it was presented to me. My point is, gun culture in America is really not driven by the military. We're not the only country with a military. The gun culture in America is driving gun culture in the military. So like if you look at what the unit that took down Madero's doing, what they're doing for training with guns is driven by PRS, USPSA, IPSC, et cetera. Those are the guys that they're hiring to consult on how to be better at their craft. And so I would make the argument that the American consumer in the gun market is part of that driving force behind the success of this.
I think so
Maybe
as
a
well.
bit of a
I mean, I think that it's a mixed bag there because you have organizations that specifically select based on a specific talent pool, like personality traits and talent pool and ability, and then you encourage them to have initiative. You reward them for pursuing the things that you want them to do. And for a lot of that, like that's not really about like technology. It's just about training.
Yeah.
And I think that the innovation, like they get an idea and they'll just like, when they want something, they're like, hey, we had this idea. Can you make it? Like, yeah.
Yeah, they go to industry.
And industry places are like, we can make it. And a lot of those things aren't always popular with consumers. You'll see guys be like, why did you make this? This is dumb. And then like fast forward a year and suddenly a bunch of people are like, hey, that thing that we thought was dumb, I actually would like to buy one of those. And you're like, well, we only made 50.
Yeah, it's an interesting, like, and you guys see it probably more than I do because I've only been on one side of that. I've mostly been on one side of that coin. But to me, it's a weird, like, OODA loop, almost like cyclicality, right?
Yep.
Of somebody, like, training is really, you know, a PRS guy is going to run circles around the average USASOC sniper,
Soda
right?
graduate, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like they'll run circles around
Yep.
them just in shooting, right?
Yep.
And shooting really is one piece of that craft. Like Marine Corps Scout snipers, when that was a thing and their attrition rate was like 95% or whatever, guys weren't failing shooting. They were failing stalking,
Yep.
right? So the shooting standards weren't impossibly high, but my point is the civilian shooting market is what's driving the excellence
I agree
in
with that.
shooting. It's driving the firearms, and then it's blowing the lid off of what we think is possible, right? So if you look at, let's talk long range.
Well, most of the shooting instructors that are being paid to train organizations are not internal. They're being there's a significant portion of civilian shooting instructors that are being hired to teach shooting craft.
That bar is raising dramatically at a lot of
organizational,
places,
yeah.
Like, and not just in one service, right? Like there's a shitload of Rangers, MARSOC, SF guys that are getting, like we have a good friend who's a USPSA master that's teaches at SOFLETE.
I think it's worth pointing out though that as the wars have wound down, guys have had more time to pursue excellence in on the civilian, like
you can make that
when
argument.
it's not a crazy constantly deploying cycle where you're just home gone, and when you're home you're doing red cycle tasking or whatever else. Like now guys have time to be like, well, I don't want to sit at the house, so I'm gonna go take a class, or like I'm gonna go shoot matches, or go hunting, and like suddenly when I go hunting, these skills are more important to me too, and now I'm developing this other skill set.
I'm seeing more of the higher level units guys are crossing over though. So I was going to say like long range shooting, if we talk about that, the idea that I want to be able to find a range on a target at night, that was something that like wasn't a civilian ask. That was purely a military ask. And we're trying to, I remember,
because it's illegal to hunt. It's illegal to hunt at night.
Yeah, I've still tried to shoot a rangefinder like through my nods is how I used to do it, which is super fucking cumbersome, right? It's really challenging to do it that way. And then
laser rangefinder on the side of your thermal.
Yeah, that's how it is now. But like before
it wasn't like that
was
before.
A thing, that wasn't it, right? So you'd build your range card and like all of those things kind of different at different units. They got different things. So ATAC now makes it really easy, right? If you're like, that's compound 42, you're like, boom, I know that's 914 meters or whatever the hell it is. It's changed the landscape quite a bit, but it still is like, again, it's a circle of like, okay, now you're seeing thermals and night vision used in hunting a lot. And guys are hunting, whether that's pigs or whatever, coyotes, whatever it is that they're hunting. It is becoming this interesting like OODA loop of, you know, technology and advancement that comes back around.
I think it's exciting. And honestly, like as much as working in the industry, we struggle with recognizing innovation where it's like, it feels like the same thing year over year.
Well, it's incremental innovation, vice like, this is something I want to talk about ad nauseum and we got to do some homework on, but the AR-15 design has not changed.
The core hasn't, but the ergonomics, like
it's had incremental innovation from start to today, right? And so I often wonder, you know, I went down a Browning high power rabbit hole because everybody now makes a 2011, a Glock, and an AR-15. And I'm like, man, there's other great platforms. Like the next Browning platform that's arguably better was the high power, right? So I went down the high power rabbit hole for
why wasn't the high power developed? Why didn't it not keep up? Why did the M9 not keep up?
So
the M9 is
I still think the M9 is a better platform than the 2011.
I think it's better than a Glock. I don't know if it's better than a 2011.
I think it's better than both, but I'm biased because I've got a Gucci.
Still got a locking block, homie.
The high power is interesting. There's a theory that it was not wildly adopted because it was adopted in Germany. And so people had a bad taste in their mouth about the German high powers, and it was less American
also
at one point.
The Browning and the Star were the most popular pistols in Rhodesia as well. So like most of the outer flung pariahs of the world were adopting the Browning high power.
Double stacked though.
It
can have the trigger's weird because the reset on it is longer than the initial pull.
It's a very odd trigger.
It's a super weird. It's a decent trigger. It's better than a Glock.
Are people modifying those? I've never really seen
like
a
me
modded
and
out
four other
Browning high
guys
power.
that are like being idiots with it. Mike Pannone carried one in Iraq, so he like recovered one.
I recovered two with bath party stamps. And
so he recovered
I miss those
one,
pistols.
and then he might have recovered a couple. Yeah, he had a couple because he said he cracked a frame on one.
Really?
And so what we were looking at was the metallurgy differences between like aluminum versus steel framed versions and like good metal versus shitty metal, etc. But my point was, when I was looking at that, we haven't had crazy pistol innovation that same way.
People have tried.
You've got like the Alien, right?
I'm looking at Hudson.
Yeah. yeah. Hudson tried.
Yep.
And I don't know enough about that platform, but it's almost like nobody wants to gamble on it, or there's not. I
have a
wonder,
theory.
What's the theory?
I think that it is almost exclusively about widespread mag adoption. That like HK suffered because the prices on their mags were too expensive, and that Glock thrived because Glock mags were cheap and Glock did 1-for-1s.
I have a different theory.
Yeah.
I think that when you have large, so you know this from SOFLETE, when you have large changes in innovation, you either have to continue to beat that drum for a lengthy period of time for it to get to take.
Yep.
Or it has to be such a monumental game changer
That everybody just adopts it.
that everybody's like, fuck yeah, like a 1911, when everybody else has a revolver.
Yep.
You're like, okay,
Huge.
this is a game changer, right? Like I had a,
And 45 ACP was better than 38, which is the primary. Like, I get it. Yeah.
There's a ton of reasons why you would go to that, right? And then you go to a double stack and you're like, okay, I've just doubled the horsepower that I have. And now, since going to a double stack magazine, we've had incremental innovation until
one innovation
the next thing
in ammunition drove a return to 9mm.
Yep.
Because we were definitely around for the shift out of 45 to like 40, 357 SIG, when police forces were trying to find a better round, and now we're all back to 9mm.
We're all back to 9
because ammo works. 9mm.
Somewhat. I've seen a lot of stuff on like odd, smaller than 9mm calibers, like 32s and things like that, where I'm like, okay, remind me never to buy a gun that's chambered in, smaller than
380.
9 mil. Yeah, like a 380. What's interesting on the ammo front is seeing like old school badass like 30-06 has kind of made a resurgence with guys.
It's a hell of a round.
It's a hell of a round with a modern bullet. Like, it's
only one man
good.
alive has ever been built that can withstand a 30-06 round to the neck. Book it.
But I'm curious if this, like, we're all talking about the really immediate effects of the Venezuela incident, whatever we're going to call that. It's not a conflict, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is an ongoing conflict, but not an armed one.
It's not a war, right?
It's a social conflict. Like, they have major social issues. There's internal upheaval. There've been multiple police attempted revolts. There've been like.
My question is, are we now going to see crazy innovation out of Venezuela if they go full capitalist? Right?
Innovation from Venezuelans, or innovations that that America makes to meet needs of Venezuelans?
It could be both. But it could be like, so right now you're sitting there, the conversation is around oil in Venezuela. Venezuela also has a shitload of other natural resources, right? So do you see the innovation, the military frees up this potential economy, the U.S. is a partner, is Venezuela now going to do something innovative that we don't even see, right? The lid just got blown off. Now
I think it really depends on the environment
created
of rewarding them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, we've seen a conservative, a right-wing wave in Latin America recently, almost an allergic reaction to socialist policies in Latin America by Latin Americans.
Yep.
And
because it doesn't work.
Well, and the West that is leaning more socialist now, I think is really, especially people who favor socialism, have been appalled by this kind of like shift to the right. Like, what's happening there? What's going on? It's like, look, this is the logical consequences of socialist policies.
Well, we all like some degree of socialism, and I'm going to get fucking eviscerated for saying that.
Yeah,
but like,
I know what you're about to get at.
We have roads, right? Like, so there's levels to everything, right?
Yep.
And so the level, socialism works really well when it's propped up by capitalism. socialism, or when it's an autonomous group of people. Like there's these use cases for like, okay, this kind of works collectively. Like full-on socialism obviously doesn't work. And
Unless you're in a very homogenous population where everyone operates in a high trust environment.
Socialism works when it's more of like a social contract than an actual contract, right? When it's enforced by the government, it doesn't work, or when it's fully enforced, rather.
Well, people have to accept it, right? If you're like Sweden, et cetera, where it's 100% tax on vehicles, like if there were 100% tax on vehicles here in the United States,
you would still drive the same truck.
I'd be building that truck.
You'd build a smaller.
I'd be building it in my driveway, and I'd be driving it without plates, and I'd be saying I was a sovereign citizen. I'd be fighting cops at every stoplight.
Yeah.
Because like 100% tax on a vehicle is not sustainable for us. But the people of those countries have accepted that if they want to drive a vehicle, they're paying 100% tax on it, and that's worth it for whatever benefits they get.
Sure.
I
don't
understand.
I guess what like you and I agree on, and most people don't even think about this, is there's zero level of socialism, total anarchy, free market economy, blah, 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 however you want to look at that. There's no tax structure there. There's no development, et cetera. Flip side of that coin is full socialist, which is what Venezuela was. And so I guess the question that you're posing is, or
it wasn't real socialism. That's why it didn't work.
Yeah, that's why
if it was real, it would have worked.
Well, a sprinkling of socialism can work, right? So how
Just
much
give
of
it
this,
another try.
Yeah, how much sprinkling of socialism are they going to get? Are they going to have, are they going to socialize the oil fields again, or keep that going, or are they going to blow the door off that and boom? And how much are they going to incentivize their population to innovate and move into a free market?
I think it's going to have to be dictated to them.
But you do? You don't think they just blow the lid off of it and let them go that they run?
It may be dictated in private.
Yeah.
But I sense that a lot of
you mean to the government?
To the
We
government.
are going to dictate to them the level of socialism.
I think that there will be some heavy petting,
Yeah,
as it were.
You can be somewhere between Alaska and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, like we understand what you are used to, but this is what it needs to look like moving forward.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that kind of parental guidance, that is how the United States should have been looking at Latin America from the beginning of our interaction in the Caribbean. It's like, we're a caring parent who wants to see you grow up and be independent and stop going and smoking weed with those other kids behind the gym, because it's not going to make for a productive life for you. And instead we ended up with the Bay of Pigs and a bunch of drug wars.
You and I've both been a part of some interesting parts of history. So in Libya, we helped pluck out leadership, and then we basically sat back and said, who's going to be the real leader?
Let's let them fight it out.
Yeah, we literally sat there in Libya and went, well, we're going to kind of hang out and see.
When they all looked the same, like we couldn't even figure out who your partner force was.
It was very weird. And so, but we were an active participant in that. They also didn't have a government that functioned without a strongman at the top. In reality, they had all these militias that effectively co-opted together, and that could still potentially happen in Venezuela.
I think that culturally, that's not the nature. They're not Bedouin. They're not like a North African desert population that's used to that sort of infighting. I think that the Venezuelans as a whole, at least it appears to me on the internet, there's a lot of like national identities, like the solidarity around their suffering seems to have created a general distaste for socialism as a whole, or at least
we also saw in
Chavezism.
Iraq and Afghanistan where we were like, we're going to wipe the map with the people running the show, and we are going to embrace Western values, ideologies, et cetera, and we are going to prop up this government to do what we say.
And we got a Baskin Robbins out of that one, didn't we?
Yeah, and we're taking a very different approach from what I can tell in Venezuela, of saying like, hey, we didn't like the shit that was going on. We're going to pluck this guy out. Everybody else gets to stay as long as you maintain these guardrails.
Well, I think that everybody who is an armchair
diplomat,
including us, is they wish they knew more. And a 24-hour news cycle, like everybody is quick to rush to judgment because of how they feel about whoever's in power.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if this was a different person, I'd be into it. Well, the people that you like didn't do these things this way. Well, they should have. Okay, like, look.
Well, this guy did, so let it
We don't know what the thing is, but this does seem to be a good first step.
Yeah.
And I hope that there is a good plan in place for there to be changes in Venezuela that don't involve outright civil war or a military junta, like an overthrow of order, that would be the greatest hope. There's a significantly large portion of Venezuelans living abroad who left Venezuela due to all of the hardships brought on by Chavez and Maduro. And honestly, the real test here is going to be seeing if they return to Venezuela after a change, if the economic conditions
that's a great point.
incentivize, because Venezuelans, I don't think they want to be expatriated or living abroad. They left out of necessity because it wasn't a tenable place for them to live. So I think that one of the first bellwethers will be seeing if the economic conditions and political conditions that are set are encouraging remigration of Venezuelans to Venezuela.
Yeah, and where can they remigrate? Like, I don't think you can get Miami to Venezuela. You're not going Miami to Caracas.
And maybe that's
Jericho
one of
said he's going.
Yeah.
He said as soon as he can get a flight in, he's going to.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
The boy's got a death wish.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we once again have taken this to its logical extreme, and if you watch this, you can assume that we know just about as much as you do, which is probably a whole lot of nothing, and we are trying to look on the bright side, so we encourage you to do the same. If you enjoyed this conversation, it was many rabbit holes and digressions, then you should like and subscribe to the channel, and stick around for the next episode of AR Curious with Brent and Doug.